Welcome back, viewers, to another List of Legends list, and today we're going to be listing the top 8 worst SpongeBob SquarePants episodes. If you guys haven't seen my top 8 golden SpongeBob SquarePants episodes, I highly encourage you guys to check that out, so I'll leave a link down in the description. And remember to give the video a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing so I know if you enjoy my content. Lastly, I just wanted to let you all know that I post videos 3 times a week, and if you like to see more or less videos, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Starting off our list at our number 1 spot, we have Squid's Visit. What makes this episode so bad to me is the horrible continuity. Yes, I'll admit SpongeBob's continuity is small, but come on. You're telling me this whole episode is based off of SpongeBob begging Squidward throughout the whole episode to visit his home because he never has? Yeah, that obviously doesn't add up. Obviously Squidward has been over before and it's just the SpongeBob crew running out of ideas. And I think the ending was pretty devastating. Not only for us watching the whole 11 minutes, but seeing Squidward's house burn down and SpongeBob asking Squidward to move in. I mean, poor Squidward. Number 2 is a pal for Gary. When SpongeBob realizes he doesn't have the time to interact with Gary while he's at work, SpongeBob decides to buy a pet friend for Gary. What's unusual about this episode is that the pet tried to eat Gary throughout the whole episode and wreaks havoc all around the house. I bet you can guess who gets blamed for all that. Yeah, Gary gets blamed the entire time. Even the ending itself is trash. Despite the pet growing into a huge monster and having Gary literally in his mouth, SpongeBob still thinks it's Gary causing it all. Wow, that's almost dumber than Patrick. Almost. At our number 3 spot, we have Dear Vikings. This episode felt more random than entertaining. The plot involves SpongeBob wanting to learn more about the Vikings. Yeah, that's about it. The episode has such a slow pace to it, and you'll definitely see and feel the vibe of just how boring it is. And honestly, the visuals in this episode were pretty bad. So let's just leave it off, as there are definitely better SpongeBob episodes to watch. Hitting our halfway point on the list at our number 4 spot, we have SpongeBob You're Fired. This episode really showed how low Mr. Krabs can go, even more than trading SpongeBob to the Flying Dutchman for 62 cents. Mr. Krabs legitimately fires SpongeBob for, I kid you not, to save a nickel, and I thought Scrooge McDuck was greedy. Anyways, SpongeBob gets so depressed to the point where he looks like he hasn't left his house in years. I will give SpongeBob props for trying to find another job, but of course since he's used to making Krabby Patties, he fails miserably. And as you would expect, the ending is Mr. Krabs wanting SpongeBob back because he can't be the fry cook SpongeBob was, which nobody can. And I think it was bad on Nick's part for promoting this episode like it was going to be the best ever, which it wasn't. Number 5 goes to Pet Sitter Pat. The main issue with this episode was Gary being horribly neglected. Following his grandma's birthday, SpongeBob asked his trusted best friend Patrick to babysit Gary while he's away. The moment SpongeBob left Gary was absolutely bad. I mean, the house gets trashed, Gary gets set on fire, Gary was not fed, and I could just go on and on. Overall, it was a Gary torture episode. And while the ending of the episode fixed that with Gary reading Patrick a bedtime story, but to me the ending changed the whole episode way too quickly. And from what it seems, throughout the whole series, I think Gary is more than capable of taking care of himself. Number 6, we had the Clash of Triton. Yet another highly promoted episode by Nick. King Neptune's birthday party is coming up, and SpongeBob wants to bring Neptune's lost son Triton for his party, while Mr. Krabs distracts him at the Krusty Krab. I don't know why they decided to bring up that Neptune has a lost son when it has never been mentioned at all throughout the whole series. It's just like during the episode Big Sister Sam where Patrick all of a sudden has a sister. I will include that on our list, but since the Clash of Triton was more promoted, I'm including it on our list instead. So we'll consider Big Sister Sam a dishonorable mention. Overall, the episode was completely random since they all of a sudden mentioned that Neptune has a long lost son. Yeah, whatever. Nearing the end of our list, our number 7 spot, we have the Splinter. The Splinter is definitely a prime example to show how bad modern SpongeBob was getting. This episode was one of the worst gross out humors I've ever seen in this show. Because, as the title suggests, the episode starts with SpongeBob having a gigantic pus-filled splinter. So noticing SpongeBob's worry, Squidward tells SpongeBob that Mr. Krabs would fire him if it wasn't taken care of. So of course at the end of the episode, Mr. Krabs finds out and tells SpongeBob it's no big deal, and removes the splinter himself. And we see the grossest thing on the show, with SpongeBob's splinter pouring out pus. Yeah, get that off my screen already. At our at our not so great number 8 spot, we have One Course Meal. This episode itself is considered the worst SpongeBob episode of all time due to its major cruelty towards Plankton. When Mr. Krabs discovers Plankton's fear of whales, he goes out of his way to scare Plankton all the way to the point where Plankton is living his whole life in fear, and is ready to commit suicide by having himself ran over by a bus. I don't know what the crew was thinking during this production of this episode, but my god, that's way too overboard. Even though we have our fair share of bad SpongeBob episodes, I do believe the show is getting a lot better. Sure, not every episode is going to be great, but what show is, honestly? Alright viewers, that is the end of our list. Let me know what list you'd like to see next, and with all that said, I look forward to seeing you with our next list.